Okay, I've been told we're live at the moment. Okay, so let's get going, everyone. Hope everyone's well, and I'm going to get this thing started, my slides. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all in the chat. Okay, and let me just get my everything ready. Little setup here. Making sure I'm online. Because this is a little bit, I think I might just go through the slides here. Let me see if I can share properly. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're ready to start. And I'll go to my cell phone to see, I think it's probably easier than me flirt between one thing and the other to be able to see your comments. And then we'll start. To start. Oh, but then I have to I'll go to my cell phone. There we are. Okay, fine. Hello, everyone. I'm going to keep you on my cell phone if it doesn't keep turning off, and then we can get going. So thanks for joining me at the first class here at Clipping. Okay, I'm sure the other teachers are excited as I am to be able to speak to you today. A gente vai falar em inglês, claro. Tá sem áudio, okay? Can everyone hear me? Let's confirm. Can everyone hear me well? Você pode me ouvir? Respond to me on the chat, then that'd be helpful. Hello, Marvin, Amanda, Orlando, Anna Maria, Cici. Okay, great, thanks, brilliant. Of course, it's always difficult to understand what you're seeing, your side, than we're seeing here. Mas claro, vou falar inglês porque os captions aqui embaixo não entendem nada de português, okay? So here it will help you as well to read. So if you're listening later and you've got difficulty understanding me, you can see below what I'm saying very clearly in English. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm the first of the teachers on this clipping course. My name is Shaun. I've been teaching English for 27 years. I teach in all of those places you've seen. I live in Brasilia. So I work a lot with the government. My area, of course, is specialized teaching of specific courses. So I do a lot with economists, a lot with lawyers, and of course, diplomats too. I was teaching in Rio Branco for 10 years. So I've prepared, prepared diplomats, hundreds of diplomats in my time at Rio Branco, literally hundreds. But I'm very unfortunate because in the last, let's say, 8 years, I didn't start preparing diplomats when I started. But after so many requests, I've helped prepare future diplomats. So before, during, and after the test, with the area of English, I've been helping candidates prepare. Okay, so always you need a lot of help. Some people at different levels of English and a different awareness of the exam and what's necessary in order to pass. Do you need the best English in the world? No, of course. I don't have the best English in the world. But you need to do enough to pass. And that is difficult in itself. But have there been diplomats who didn't have a high level of English to pass the concurso? Yes, a high level of, they had a high level of reading and of writing, but they didn't necessarily always have a high level of speaking. So you're going to have lots of practice when you go to Rio Branco, I can assure you. But let's talk about this course today. As I say, I work with the government, I work with presidents of different, well, I work a lot of private work and specialist work. So I work with I've worked with presidents of the STF, the candidatos, Minister of State, and those people who want something very specific. And different areas of the government when the government need to go out and do presentations, represent Brazil well. I'm here to be able to give them that confidence and understanding to be able to do it in a very private way. I also work in the area of law. I teach at IDP and I work for AOB in courses for lawyers, okay? And of course I have my own courses. I also work with Ministerio Público. I have courses online with them. The last few years I've been dealing a lot with corruption, of course, and working sometimes with procuradores and people from the federal police in helping them to be able to communicate better in English, because that's my job. So that's enough about me. Thank you, Eleni. I gave you class at Cultura Inglesa. Yes, I started at Cultura Inglesa. Well, I started at a school called EB 27 years ago, and then Cultura Inglesa bought them. And all of this time I've been working with the government. I have my own company called Central English, which I do contracts with different areas of the government, as I said. Very specific. I don't do sort of general English anymore, but I've done it. So I understand all of those courses you've done, all the different types of teachers you had. I've trained a lot of teachers. I've been president of organizations that train teachers locally. So I'm a little bit experienced, okay? Getting old in my age, but I have children probably the same age as you, 23 and 27. So I understand exactly how you, your parents feel more than you about preparing for this test. But enough of the enrolação. Let's get down and show how we are going to score high for this test. What we need to do to face the English section of the TPS. Of course, I'll talk about a little bit about the second phase. We can't ignore it. But in these 8 weeks, we will be focusing clearly on the first phase, okay? Now, I can't ignore the second phase because I'm going to help you with your vocabulary. So sometimes the vocabulary for the TPS is a little bit different than the second phase. But you'll understand that during the course, okay? I'm an expert in vocabulary. I can quite clearly say that. My research is done in vocabulary. I've published in vocabulary. So this is a massive area on the test, okay? Because they ask the strangest questions about the strangest words, okay? So anyway, that's about me. So I've got a master's in teaching English as a foreign language. So I'm aware of the processes you need to be able to learn. And it's not just giving you the information. It's underlying that is how to help you with various strategies to learn, okay? I also have a Delta, which is a diploma in English language teaching for adults. You're all adults, so you're my public, okay? So good. Let's go. I'm glad that you're all online. I'll try and keep an eye on the comments, but let's go. All right then. So let's talk about the whole test. I'm just going to have a drink before we start. And so where are we? We're at the TPS. It's first phase. We're waiting for the edital to come out. I expect it's going to be the same as last year, as it was similar to the year before. It's a bit difficult to make any radical changes to this test, as the test has been going on for, I don't know how many years, 30, 40 years maybe. I've certainly gone, the last 15 years, I've managed to go back and research all of the information on previous tests, okay? So let's have, if I look down, it's just I'm checking the chat. So we look at the TPS, the first phase, which is reading text with questions. The second phase, of course, is the classification phase. You must get 50 points out of 100 in the second phase to be able to go on. So second phase, of course, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. Second phase includes is writing of a composition, a summary, and 2 translations, one from English to Portuguese and one from Portuguese to English, okay? So that's the second phase. We want to get past this first phase. So after the first phase, everything goes back to 0 and another sort of competition begins. But the first phase, of course, is quite difficult. So that's where we are at the moment. We're looking at this first phase. Now, what we're going to look at today is a detailed look at the overall exam, okay? Of course, the importance of English in the TPS section of the Rio Branco exam, how the test is organized. So if you're a teacher out there, okay, this session will also be very good for you because you're going to understand what's behind this test, okay? I've produced many tests and used many tests in my own research because you need to test people or information before you can actually publish it, okay? So I'm always researching. Then we're going to talk about the scoring because during the course, we're going to look at the strategy of scoring, being careful, okay, with the scoring. We don't want to lose points. That's the perverse thing, I think, of these exams, that you can penalize, you can be penalized for getting something wrong. Okay, then we're going to look at the 5 main types of questions, okay, that they have, and give you some quick study tips. The next class, I'll be giving you a lot more detailed exercises in vocabulary, ways of studying using notebooks, okay? Those for you that are good even for life, not just good for the exam, okay? But we need to look at these 5 main types of questions because they're the ones you're going to see. Now, if you've done the exam before, some of students I know, you've already spoken to me from my other courses, okay, that you're already going back through the old tests, okay, great. So these 5 questions will clarify what you've been doing. For those who are new, don't worry, okay? This is the best time for you to be looking at this exam with an expert who's going to give you a better understanding of how to deal with these difficult texts, okay? So it doesn't matter if you're experienced or not, it's fine. Everything you learn, I think, will help you get those, you know, if you're scoring well, we'll give you extra points, I'm sure, with this more intensive study. For those who don't know, hopefully you're going to be scoring high as well, okay? And we'll look at the last exams on the text that's been used at the end of today, so you know which text to read. So then at the end, of course, I'll tell you more about the course. But that's going to be it for today. I'll mention what we're going to do in the course as well in each stage, okay? Fine, okay. Hello, everyone who's just come in and sent me a message. Okay, the TPS section, of course, there are 2 exam boards that have been used more recently, let's say, for the CESP. okay, for the TPS, sorry. CESP was the traditional exam that was used every year, and last year IAGIS was chosen with this new government, making this change. So, well, we all panicked. What was going to happen? But really, nothing really changed. It was administered by a different group of people, a different company. But it seems like the examiners are mostly the same. The format was the same. The type of questions were the same. So could they really change it radically? Could a new company do that? No. If you're familiar with the offshore concurso, it couldn't go to a low level, that type of level, which has got more grammar involved, okay? Has to be able to stay this way. So it was impossible for IAGIS to change. But today we're going to use this last year's exam, okay, to show you these types of questions. Now, and then we'll be using lots of CESP information during the next few weeks to show you those styles of questions too, okay? Everybody okay with me at the moment? How's my English? Is it clear? Let me know. Okay, so let's have a look at this this exam. And with good, thank you, Socorro. You're the first one. Great, Alexandre, Marina, Kelly, Bernardo, wonderful. Thank you very much. Wow, all these lots of thank you very much. Great. Good. This is my first time on YouTube. I hope I don't look too bad. Cut myself shaving even this morning, so nervous. But anyway, the English section is one of many different sections on the test. And of course, you're going to be doing them on this course. So usually in Portuguese, a chave de ouro is usually at the end, we say. But the chave de ouro today is at the beginning, because the golden key to unlock the test, okay, starts now. And of course, you're going to have all the excellent level of teachers and finish with João at the end. I'm not going to mention them all, but happy to be in their company. So 12% of the overall points can be gained through getting English perfect. Now, are you going to get English score perfect? Well, I sometimes get one question wrong. Yeah, because it can be very dubious, some of the statements that they used, the response of the examiner. Every year, this is the first time actually I've done this type of spoken course of the TPS before, okay? So it's strange to be able to verbalize it, but what we're going to see is that English, where was I here? Because I saw a question before, I'll ask that question. I'm from England. Arthur, you can find me all on Facebook or Instagram, okay? I'm originally from the south of England, but I grew up in the north. Okay, so used to be a long time ago, you'll see the old CESP exams. There used to be about 14 questions on the test. And this was reduced by CESP a few years ago to only have 9 questions. They've improved, say, the second phase where it's a classifying stage. Before it was, so it's eliminating stage. Okay, it wasn't classifying, sorry, it was an eliminating stage a few years ago. So you've got to get over 50% in the exam, if not, okay? So I'm usually, Clipping would invite me to come and give my comments after the test, which I will be doing this year as well. That will be free for everyone who's on the course, so they can, so when you're panicking after the exam, as soon as we get it, me and the other teachers, we will be commenting what we think is the right and the wrong answer. So you can then feel a bit relaxed, go to sleep at the end of the day or before the real answers come out, okay? So I used to do that. Now I'm working a little bit more with clipping. So those who were on my extensive course recently, hello, and glad you're coming on here. And those who haven't, who know me also, welcome too. I'm sure people are joining now. So 12% got to get. So even I can get one question wrong, okay? And usually every year I get one wrong. I have to complain and go to the courses, which is never easy. So we've had this same type of criteria since 2018, okay? When CESP was managing the course, okay? So let's have a look at the text. Here, the tests, there are you see in green there, okay? Can you see in green? The green there is 1 text, 2 texts, 3 texts, and 4 texts. There are 4 pages with 4 texts on, okay? So on these, well, there are 2 pages here, but you'll see there are 4 pages on the exam. And there's always 9 questions, as we've just seen. Okay, usually 2, 3, 2, and 2. Okay, and each question, of course, is a multi-choice question. So that's the layout. So when you're going to be doing with me lots of practice of exams. I've got lots of tests and different texts for you to use, not just used as simulados, as mock exams, okay, but to use in the study of language too. All right, so we'll see them in this format always. I'll have other activities for you to do in other formats, but always, not the first week, but the second week until the end, you'll be doing simulados. Sometimes the text will be a little bit harder than the exam. I like to do questions that are harder than the exam in everything I do. Why? Because when you get to the day of the test, you find it easy. So if we make the level just even a little bit higher, which is difficult for this, okay, then you find it easy, okay? And as you get used to these high-level questions, okay, then you address the test in a much better state, okay? So you're much more aware of what you're doing. So we've got these types of questions, okay, these 9 questions, and here are the questions. They're always true and false questions. Again, you're going to mark C and E, right, certo, or E, errado. So true or false, right or wrong, certo, errado. Okay, so, and they come in 4 different statements. So are these statements true or false? Here we can see 2 different questions, okay? Yes, Victor, treino difícil, jogo fácil. That's always the best way, okay? As I'm sure there are many Botafoguenses out there, you'll appreciate that type of training, okay? As I'm a bit of a Botafoguense, and Liverpool, of course, as well. So sorry for the Flamenguistas out there too. Okay, so let's go on. So 4 statements in each question, always 4. Some vocabulary, some reading comprehension, okay? And but there are 5 different types that we're going to look up, these true or false questions, okay? Here we go. So before we go on, let's talk about the scoring. You can't make a mistake. That is a simple thing. Because you're going to lose, as it says, that, well, you're going to gain, as it says here, 0.25 points, okay, of the possible 4 points. Let's go back. Here we've got the 4 questions. So 0.25 gives us a 1.1. So you want 1 point, so 9 points overall, okay? If you get one of those statements wrong, you're going to get 0.125 points penalized. So if you get all of them wrong in one section, okay, remember there's 4 statements, so you're going to lose 5 points, 2.5, yeah, 5 points from your overall score. Now 5 points can make the difference between you being in those top positions or not, all right? Sometimes the cut, you know, is very, if it's 72, 73, sometimes 77, you know, that is a 5 point difference. So we've got to do well. So of course, it's better not to answer it if you don't know. But if you don't know all of them, you can't answer any of them. You're not going to get any points. So that's all right. I always think the perversity of this exam. There's no other exam like this in other parts of the world, I think. That's so cruel. And I wish if I had my opinion, I would change this radically. But anyway, yes, 0.5. Okay, great. I think we might be in a bit of a lag between me talking and the information coming up on YouTube. But don't worry, we'll get through it, okay? We'll see how it goes. But as I said, this will be good whether you're candidates or even teachers, because you're going to be able to understand how to help your candidates too, okay? And if you're preparing and like to understand a bit more of this strange exam, because of course there's lots of teachers want to know what's it like to teach at Rio Branco, what's it like to be a teacher of diplomats, okay? And this exam is different, so it's difficult. So even if you think your aim is of Shaun, okay, even studying this exam, which will be more difficult, a level will be always good for you. So yeah, studying exams of this level is tough, but it's better to do something that's difficult than something that's too easy, because when you get to face any exam, you're going to be better prepared. Now, on the course, how are you going to communicate? Today we're on YouTube, but during the course, me and the other teachers, you can get you can install on your phone Clip in Chat. I look at it every few days and answer any questions they've got, because it helps me. It's sort of like WhatsApp, okay? It helps me organize myself as well as you on the course, because there will be times that you've got a doubt, you've got to worry, and that's my Chio Shaun, my Uncle Shaun time to make sure everything is clear for you, okay? Clipping Chat is there, the other teachers will be available too, okay? And that's going to be the way. During the course, you're going to communicate with me. For those who've been with me for the last year, with clipping on the Intensivão course, this has been quite successful. I've been very happy with the way we've been able to communicate. And we've been actually doing a lot of writing too on that, okay? So that's what you'll be expected to communicate with us. So you will be able to speak to us all of the time, all right? So don't think that at the end, it's all gone, okay? Also, it's better to go through these videos a second time. Of course, they'll be recorded. This one will be, of course, on YouTube for posterity, okay? I'm sure it's going to have millions of likes and go viral around the world and be more important than, I don't know, Gangnam Style. I don't know, but you'll be able to talk to us all the time. The videos will all be accessible. So if you can't make the correct time of the class with me, you'll be able to access them at another time that's convenient to you. So it gives you that flexibility. One thing I like about here clipping, of course, most of the people who've put clipping together have been students, okay? They're students themselves, okay? And that's why I've been invited, which is lovely, okay? I've had lots of students, I've prepared lots of people, and they understand the difficulties you've got. I love it that everyone's from all over the country. It's fantastic for me. And when I travel and meet, sometimes get my chance to meet you, it's lovely. Oh, even if you come to Brasilia, I'll see you too. Okay, here we go. So clipping chart is where we're going to communicate, okay? Any problems you're going to have with finding this, okay, talk to clipping. I'm not the support really for you to be able to deal with. So they'll do it. I've got Apple too. Okay, so I have it downloaded into my. I don't know if it's downloaded, but I go to it to my computer every day and check if I've got any questions. Okay. So you can access it, but I don't know how it is through iOS. All right. But talk to clipping about that. Lucas was online now. There's Elisa, who's always on the chat as well. Who's there? They're there to help you. All right. They even speak to me in English, which is very nice. So a little bit about the course. So let's get stuck in. Let's look at these true or false questions. Here we go. Now we're going to understand what you've been doing if you've been studying these tests, okay? And what the examiner requires from you. For those who are new, you're going to really understand when you do the test with me, you're going to repeat these styles of questions all of the time, okay? So let's look at the most important, well, there are 5 types, okay? Let's go through these 5 types. Here's the first one. I put it in Portuguese for you. I got my wife to help with my Portuguese. Thank you, my girl. So you've got this in Portuguese. I'm not going to read it in Portuguese because I don't want you to laugh at my gringo sotaque, all right? So really, the most important one is this one of vocabulary and grammar. Well, grammar is less important. Ofsha, okay, I'm talking about Ofsha because there are some people where you have done those tests before. So Ofsha has more grammar. Abin would have more grammar. Well, I can't remember the Abin now. I prepared lots of people for that because they also are good exams, extra exams you can get to practice. Ofshan is a bit different because it's got a lot more grammar. The vocabulary is a bit simpler than this, but they're the only alternatives if you need more material to use. But there's plenty of old exams of CESPI that you can download online. Okay, just go to CESPI's site and type in Rio Branco and then you should be able to find the phase 1 and the phase 2 test there, okay, with the gabaritos, with the answers too. Okay, so this is about vocabulary. So vocabulary is an extremely high level on this exam. Some of the weirdest novel, as we say, novel words can come up on the exam. And you either know it or you don't, okay? And then they're sometimes very dubious as well. There's some grammatical items. There was one last year in the ERG's exam. We'll look at that as well. There's a high-level grammar in English. It's very difficult to have. So it's limited what we consider high-level grammar. It's very different in Portuguese, okay? Grammar is a lot simpler in many ways in English. So it's quite difficult, that's why, to put on an exam. So, but during the course, we'll look at what is high-level grammar, all right? So then we can have an expectation of what possible questions can come up because we'll know what that grammar is. high-level grammar doesn't mean it's difficult. It means you just know what it is, especially if you've got Portuguese, which is deals with structures, very complicated structures, okay? English is simple in many ways. So don't think it's high-level means it's difficult. Now, for example, inversions or conditional forms are not necessarily very difficult when we compare it with Portuguese, okay? So difficulty, I really don't want you to think things are difficult. The vocabulary is difficult, okay? So we need to study a lot more of that, which we'll be doing. So then there is also, it says they're underlined, conhecimento textual, okay? So textual, we'll do a little exercise, a little video I've got with you today to show you the main question that it asks you for, okay? And we'll do that in a moment, straight after I've explained a bit more. Now, then it says here, you have 2 or 3 synonyms. So synonyms are very important with these high-level vocabulary. So we've got a high-level novel word, difficult word, and they ask for a synonym. Sometimes it's an easier word. Sometimes it's another high-level, infrequent word, as we say when we're studying English, okay? So these synonyms, these similar words, or which we call parts of a lexical set, they're lexical items. Now, last year, the only real change of the exam was that it focused on lexical comprehension, right? Never mentioned this before in previous years. So you must have a lexical understanding of what the language is. Now, of course, all those books behind me on there are what I study. I study Lexis, okay? So understanding this, because the professors, they're professors, these examiners, okay? They're professors from UNB or from Bahia or from other universities that I've read, okay? So they're professors, so they're looking at this at a very high level and they've studied this. They need to be able to justify their questions. All right, so, you know, they've got PhD in this area. So you need to understand what's behind these questions. Lexical items are something that's talking about phrases, collocations, okay, delexicalized verbs. Okay, I've written some articles for the British Council on Lexis. They're mainly for teachers, like dyslexicalized verbs. One of the questions last year was asking for dyslexicalized verbs. Though they're those simple verbs. I'll explain what they are during the course, okay? Don't worry how they're slightly different, okay? There's not a lot of meaning in them, but we have to look at them in lexis, as in phrases, as groups of language, okay? Here we go. So there we are. I hope you've, in my description, you've had a look at this area. So we're looking at single words, high frequency words, grammatical items, and then idiomatic, more idiomatic language, which is lexis, okay? So that's the area. Previously, it was mainly on synonyms and high-level words, but last year, the small behavior of the examiner changed to have more sort of idiomatic, lexical language, okay? So there's a slight difference. Trying to explain it actually is would take hours, all right? But through the course, then you're going to be able to better understand of lexis as well as single words, okay? Because there's a difference the way we learn those two. So I'll be giving you different strategies of learning in this first week, as it says there. Okay, so here's the example to prove that I'm not lying, okay? That these questions here in ERGs, you see, of course, we have a word swathe. Never say swathe in my life. Would I ever write swathe? No. Swathes would never be a word. What does it mean? Well, I'm not going to describe it now because it means many. Sometimes something with a movement, a lot of things, swathes of people, of plants, very difficult to describe, okay? It depends on that. So it compares this, can it be replaced with areas? So it's sort of a synonym. We have to go in the text and check in the context of that, the text, if it fits. We can't just say it's a one-for-one. Oh yeah, swathe is the same as area. Because when you look at it this way, we would say no. So we must double check and go back and look at the text, okay? It's the same like this. The second one, it says there, blast can be replaced with number. Again, we've got to go back and look at the text. Now, we can guess that normally these look like, at first glance, to say no, they're not synonyms, okay? So we might think that straight away, but we do need to double check. You know, we can guess most of the time because as they're high level words, they've got quite a specific meaning, all right? In Lexis, when we talk about phrases, it can change, as we'll see in a moment, okay? So here we're looking at palavras fora do comum, swathe, alternative vocabulary, okay, alternativas de vocabulário, blast is alternative to number. Here we've got synonyms, okay? Here we've got if resolve is same as means and alternative, those synonyms. And then, of course, here 3, we've got similar words. This is this lexical set. If prospects, chance, and possibility come from this same set of vocabulary. Don't worry, this is only talking about this now. We'll have lots of practice to do, okay? Okay, here is, so someone's asking me, do you remember by heart it was the lexical question last year? Well, here was the main lexical question here, Gustavo, okay? This last, well, these are lexical questions, but line 39, as it says there in the heading, as far as lexical comprehension is concerned, so that's the first time they mentioned lexical. We think it's vocabulary, but it has a little bit deeper of a meaning, okay? Especially for you if you're studying vocabulary like me. So number 4 there, it says that render these conclusions effective. So can we reduce make? Render and make. Well, make has very little meaning. It's what is a dyslexicalized verb, yes. It can mean many meanings, make the bed or, don't know. I can go with phrasal verbs. I'm just drawing a blank at the moment. So I'm trying to make light of the situation, okay? Make light of the situation is a lexical adjective to make something more humorous, okay? So make doesn't have a lot of meaning in make light of the situation, okay? But here, make these conclusions effective is the same as render these conclusions effective. Yes, it is, okay? So make and render, if you would look in a book, would be very difficult because make has so many different types of meanings, and that comes when we're looking at lexis, okay? So, okay, I'm good. So, that's one of the items. I've got a feeling that they're going to do a few more of this as the examiners themselves are developing. Okay, I'm getting more advanced. Lexis is something that's more advanced than I believe in single words. And it's the way we learn the language. Okay, so it's taxando in the exam, all right? So that's Lexis, but we'll talk about that again a lot more deeper so you've got an understanding, okay? I know what I'm doing with this one, so great fun. As I said, make is a dyslexicalized verb. This is an article I wrote a long time ago. And I also did an article about organizing this lexis, okay, in your notebook. If you've been on courses with me, you know I've talked to you about how to improve your vocabulary over a longer period of time. It's not just know one word and look in a dictionary. You've got to work this again and again. So if you've been actually focused on phase 2, when we come to talk about this, okay, I'm going to ask you to look at your texts again that you've written, okay? Render is a word you might have used in your preparation for phase 2, All right, so you can see how that is more reflective in the questions. It wasn't like that. You would never use, for example, the word swathe in an exam, okay? So don't, in a writing, so don't think if I use swathe, it's going to be good. No, it will be weird. All right, so we'll be looking at Lexis, you know, as we go. So the other area was to look at lexical comprehension. Now, this is a little video I did when I was playing about with animation a long time ago, all right? And it's still relevant, it'll say CESB, but the type of exam, let me go a bit more here, is about now. I think if I can put some sound on, it might, I know I have to take the sound off. There should be some music with this, but there won't be. So I will give you some a running commentary of this, okay? So this is something I did many years ago, because this type of question is quite common. It's the referencing question, the understanding the comprehension textual, okay? This quick video will help you understand that, and I'll talk about it as we go, all right? Don't worry about the chat, okay? Because the chat won't be open until the 15th anyway, I think, when we start the course. So we're going to look at these textual comprehension, okay? Now there are, let's see, this is of course with CESB, it's the same as with EARG, okay? It happened last year. So there are three ways of looking at referencing. We're going to look at types of referencing. This was for a course, so at the end it says go to the exercises, so don't worry. So there are three types of referencing. Should have glasses, I think, with this. So in grammar we call it anaphoric referencing. Maybe this happens in the Portuguese exam, I don't know. Then we have cataphoric referencing. Ooh, there's a mistake there with spelling. And then exaphoric referencing, something outside of the text, okay? Which is, so anaphoric is, and cataphoric are pointing different ways. So the most common is the anaphoric reference, which refers to something that happened before. So you're looking for a noun or subject that happened before the word it's happening. So pronouns, personal pronouns or relative pronouns like this and that and these and those, they're referring back to something, okay? So they're these are the most common found relative pronouns, okay? In journalistic texts, and we've got it, but pronouns, okay, personal pronouns, it is the most common one. It and they are the main pronouns used by the examiner, all right? He and she, because we're not usually talking about people, okay? How does it use the reference? So let's go to the exercise. So there you would go to the exercises, of course. So the main one really we're looking at is, where this is this anaphoric referencing that happens before. Let's go back a little bit to make sure you know. We're going to do that now. So we've got, if I just, let me go through here. So we've got these three types. Anaphoric referencing, which refers upwards, something that happened previous in the text, okay? So it, the word, let's say example, it, the most common, is referring to something that happened before. Or, let's see if I can get this to the next one. Cataphoric is something that happens after. This is possible, okay, in this type of test. Not very often, because it's more of a spoken way of using, of referring. And then, of course, we've got, which tends to be exaphoric, something we already know. It should be a shared understanding of this reference. So this one is not really happening. But we are going to practice that next class. Look at that a lot more in detail. So the text you're going to be given in the first class, okay, will be ones you have to read before, because I'm going to go through it in real detail so you understand all about these referencing. Every text you do, we'll be doing that. So when it comes to this question, it is a piece of cake, all right? You look for the answer, you find the reference, it's easy. This is one of the most easiest questions that there is on this exam, okay? So, but that's where we're going to practice it first. I won't give you the easy one, and then we get to the difficult ones later. Okay, fine, let's move on. Okay, so let's move on. So we've done Lexis is what the area we'll be looking at. Of course, difficult vocabulary, we're going to have exercises to do, and grammar areas, as well as these referencing, which we'll start next class. Then we're looking at, so we're not just really preparing the exam, we are learning a lot of English. Okay, fine, let's go on to the second one. Now, let me see what time is right. Okay, we're almost 50 minutes, so we're going to go a little bit quicker now, and then you can go and relax and think about all of this information you've been doing with me. I hope everything's okay. Hope you're still awake, all right? I know it's a lot to take in, but really want to give you at this class. So when we start the first real class, this is class 0. Okay, the first real class, you'll know as we go through these 5, you know, what I'm talking about. So we don't really have to waste some time. So let's look at the second one. This is a little bit, you know, the vocabulary is the main one we've got to look at. Lots of vocabulary to study in these next 8 weeks. Then the next one is the principal idea. So usually part of the text or the whole text has a main idea, right? So this is common here. This is the example. The general tenor of the text, general understanding. I could think it's the attitude, as we'll look at the attitude, but the general understanding of the text is one thing, okay? So we must have so this could refer to one paragraph, as it used to do in the past, not so much now, but we'll be practicing that, or a section of the text, or even the whole text itself, the main idea. Right, so in the first week we'll be doing practices with that. What's the main idea of these areas of different texts? Okay, so I'm going to talk about slides. These slides will be available, okay, when you start the text, so you can go back over these and use them. And those teachers, I expect, are going to steal them as well and use them in their own courses, all right? But these, because this is very detailed, okay? So the principal idea is the second type of question, all right? And we'll be next class. Already got the class, already prepared for you to go on Monday with me on this area, okay? Then the third type, of course, is, and the attitude. What now? This goes with really the main idea, could be the attitude as well. These ones all become very similar. So what's the attitude? We can usually find, if in texts like The Economist, we usually know at the start and the end what's the attitude, because they start with introduction, a conclusion. In any good writing in magazines, where most of this information comes from, okay? So they give an attitude, they make it clear what it is, usually the start at the end. Of course, it could come in the middle of the text sometimes, all right? But the attitude, and that you can see in these questions. What's the goal of the author? What does he want to do? What does he urge? Does he urge? Is he urging Western diplomats to resort to the same unprincipled conduct, as it says here in the third question? So it's the attitude. So we see attitude questions here. Okay, a lot more was last year. Okay, and we'll look at them in too. Then the fourth one, see, we took so long on vocabulary. These ones were going quite quickly because vocabulary is the heavy one. The fourth type of question is factual information. Not easy to find as you think, okay? The text that we say that the trick that if the statement has similar vocabulary to the text, then that's not the one you're going to choose. It's usually something that describes it in a different way that does not use the same vocabulary. Even it might change one word, like diplomacy to diplomat to diplomatic. You know, even that slight change of a root word, okay, to other forms of word, still usually is not the one that we should choose. It's usually wrong, okay? But, you know, the exam might decide to change that. But usually we believe that the similar vocabulary is not the one that's going to be correct, okay? So that's the basic trick, okay? To try and you avoid you being correct. Avoid you being correct, yeah. That's much more diplomatic. Okay, here's an example. So in last year's one, if you go and have a look at the arches, you can see you have to find the specific information. It wasn't really very clear in these two questions. Death caused by, number 3, death caused by heat waves do not shock people as much as death caused by natural disasters do. You have to read it. I read it 2 or 3 times to double make sure this was correct or not. It was correct. Heat waves are probably more lethal than floods. This one's about the environment. Something that really the environment hadn't been dealt with in the course in the test for some time, okay, as we will see when we look at the text to finish this, okay? So there are these types of questions too. So I'm showing you examples where they do exist, okay? The last one, the 5 main types of questions, okay? Deduction, inferring. It can be inferred from the text, as it says there in the highlighted area. It can be inferred from the text. So inference is a much more difficult question to answer, okay? And one where we often complain about because being inferred is not always very clear. The examiner will defend himself forever, okay? But this does bring up a lot of queries from people who understand the exam, okay? So this one is inference. So we must examine the text, okay? Because and we're judging, okay, what it is, okay? So a little bit of guesswork comes into it as well. So that's why it's a lot more difficult. So in second week, we'll be looking at these questions and preparing for that. So then you've got a better understanding. You've had lots and lots of practice in this type of question, okay? So then it'll become easier on the day of the test, okay? And you're going to be complaining with me, saying, no, it means something else. And I'm going to say, no, it's not, because I'm going to be playing the devil's advocate, okay? I'm going to be saying what's right and what's wrong, just like the examiner does, okay? So they are the 5 main styles of true and false questions that come up on the exam, all right? As you've seen, I've given you examples where they were used in the ERG's test last year, because we expect them to come up in this year's exam. Of course, the Edutail is not out. As I said previously, I expect it to be very similar. I can't really believe it's going to be very different, okay? So let's have a look now at the types of texts that we've had in the last 4 years. So I'm going to run through these quickly first and then go over them. So we're going to look at 2016, 2017, 2018, and last year. Okay, what were these texts that we used? All right, so 2016. Now this is a long time ago, really, in the life of the preparation from the CACD. We start to see that the internet, okay, is being used, as well as diplomacy. Here we had more, let's say, literary styles of text, which have become less. All right. Now, years ago, there was Virginia Wood. Wow, that was difficult and unexpected. All right. Because the examiner, we had an examiner from CESB who specialized in literature. Okay. And he used to write part of this. I don't know if I don't think he's working on the exam anymore, although I think I mentioned the types of literature has certainly changed a little bit. Still very high level. So we see that Orientalism, actually was talking about diplomacy as well, but we have diplomacy and the internet, okay, technology this year. And then we've got more diplomacy, okay. Then we've got a text from The Economist. The Economist occurs very often in the exam. So, of course, on the test, I've already got all of the possible, I shouldn't say this because if the examiner's watching, we don't want him not to use The Economist. Please use The Economist because we're going to look at all of the texts on The Economist, okay? And of course, linguistics. So we've got an area of language, of course, it's diplomacy really, and history in a way with language. So we've got text from The Economist, we've got diplomacy, language, and of course, technology. Again, diplomacy and technology. Diplomacy, material markets, well, maybe that's economy, all right, but, and again, in praise of the music of language. So language again, so those themes of diplomacy, technology, and language are common and texts we need to focus on, okay? And then last year we had 2 texts from The Economist. Great, that's why I don't want you to tell the examiner not to do that again, okay? And of course, diplomacy, again, here was a small, more literary style of text, which we will also be doing. We'll be doing difficult literature. Why? Because that gives me all of the weird novel high-frequency language that I need to do for you to guess, all right? Although they're not used as much in the last few years, we're still going to look at texts of literature, okay, from classical writers, because those types of texts are much more difficult to understand. And that's what we need to put up to a bit of a high level. But we will look at The Economist text as well. So you've got training. Yeah, someone asked Bernard a good one. Is it possible to know for sure when it is inference or extrapolation? No, it never is. We never have a response from these exams, from these examiners, okay? So don't worry. Okay, so yeah, here we go. So remember, if you don't, for some reason you're desperate for these slides and you haven't done your matriculation, your enrollment, yeah, this is online as well in YouTube, okay? It's going to be there. I don't think it's locked away for you to see. This will be there for posterity. I'll be on YouTube forever. Oof, I hope my kids don't see me. Okay, so Economist, diplomacy, internet, technology, and a bit of literature as well are the main texts that we're going to use throughout this course. Now, here are some of the resources and the sources of what we're going to use, okay? Of Of course, I'm going to use about diplomacy, modern diplomacy. New statements, the project syndicate has been used before. There's one I know that the government like to read a lot. Diplomats read this quite a lot. It's got very strong views as well, but a very good reading. You can do it's free, so that's fine. Of course, The Guardian may be used a little bit less by this government, okay, but has been used a lot, and in the past, I think probably not so much now, but the texts are good, they're well written. So, and they, of course, deal with the subjects that we need to focus on. And of course, they're free. The New Yorker is always good for good, more literary texts and comments that's happening at the moment, the time, they're more developed. And then, of course, the New York Times. Can't ignore that. If we've got The Guardian, New York Times as well. Okay, so we've got the two across the water. The Economist also, okay, I use the Carnegie Council as well for good text. They're well written. They won't really come up in the exam, but it's excellent. Of course, we can't ignore foreign affairs. We know people in Brazil who write for this as well. It's a very good source, very critical source as well. So they're very well written, very high level. The analysis is good. All of these help, okay, with, of course, forming your ideas and thinking of arguments for the second phase. Then, of course, the Financial Times, we use that quite a lot. Again, it's rich, it's well written. And these texts are well written, okay? And that's what I need to, the results I need that we're going to use on this course, okay? The texts I've already got, one's from the Financial Times, for you to start reading before we get that, because I'd like you to read before we have each class, okay? I want, because I'd like you to certainly to see the text. Okay, Deborah, I saw your question. I'll respond to you with regard to that in a moment, okay? So I need to use rich text. Let's move on quickly for you. So I'd like you to read the text and do the text before we do it, okay? Then, of course, we're going to use the past papers of IAJ we've been using today, and CESB a lot, okay? Sure, some of you have been doing it, but I'll be using them more for instruction and just making sure you've done it, because I know you can get access to them. I'll be using new texts, because the possibility of new texts coming up on, they're not going to repeat an old text, all right, that they've used in the exam. We're always looking at new text, because we hope that one of the texts we use is on our course falls on the day of the exam. So, okay, before I talk about the next section, okay, I've got to deal with some questions at the moment. So Deborah asks, how do you compare the TPS text to exams like IELTS, TOEFL in terms of difficulty? TPS is perverse, okay? It's weird, it's strange. It's not made for English learners like TOEFL and IELTS. If you were to give, if you use these texts, people would not be able to pass at all. These, I'll give you a high score. It's the questions more, the true and false questions. So where do they come? In the IELTS, they have a score of 0 to 9, okay? So you're talking about level 8, really. But Brazilians are always very good on reading texts, okay? They always score very high, well, my students do anyway, with IELTS, okay? TOEFL as well. You're talking about over 110 on the do they call it GTI test of TOEFL? So they're very, very high text. They wouldn't use these texts. They wouldn't use text of diplomacy. They wouldn't use text of language necessarily. They use these simpler texts, okay? Because they're testing your level. It's a level test. This is what's the film with? This is anyway. I'm just trying to think. This is
this is a competition. This is not a test to check your level of English, okay? So this is so it's a different style of text. That's why the test is very different if I were to compare IELTS or TOEFL to it, okay? But as I said, Brazilians are usually very good at reading. You read a lot. There's lots of similarities. You must remember between English and Portuguese, there's more similarities than there are differences, okay? Guessing, usually you'd be right. Now that's very general, of course, what I'm saying. There are always going to be chances when you're wrong, but of course, a Latin-based language, English, which of course also has Latin within it, helps us a lot, okay? It's not like you grew up learning Chinese and suddenly you're learning Portuguese or English, okay? Where it's complete, where you've got symbols, you know, or and the sounds can change, all sorts of differences. Now, I'm not going to be dealing with comparing all these different languages, but we can see that in Portuguese, you know, lots of idiomatic expressions in Portuguese exist in English too, all right? So, so you must be positive that there are a lot more similarities than there are differences, okay? If I could choose between IELTS and TOEFL to do, Bernardo, I would always do the IELTS, okay? No shadow of a doubt. Not because IELTS is English and I'm English, I would always do that. The computerized version is always weird for me, okay? And training students, I've trained hundreds of people with IELTS. And since the 27 years, in the first year I started teaching, I started teaching IELTS, okay? People in the government with very low levels to get a level 6 to go to England, United States to do courses. I've helped them prepare, okay? I've helped them push them up to level. My whole being as a teacher is pushing students up to the highest level possible. That's what I've done my studies with, and mainly that's why I study with Lexis, okay? I really study with this. Yes, it was the Hunger Games, Paula, all right? It was the Hunger Games. You read my mind. It's amazing how the internet can, you can read, or maybe it's telepathy, I don't know. Okay, so on the test, on the exam, what we're going to do? Next class, we're going to look at understanding true or false questions a little bit more deeper. You've seen it today and I've gone over it very quickly, but now we're going to look at it even deeper, what's underneath these, okay? Again, we're going to do the question types used IRG exam. Specifically, we're going to look at number 1 and number 2 we've seen today, all right? We're going to have lots of exam points, easy and difficult, okay? All right, and that's going to be throughout the test. Not in this first week, but 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, up to the 8th week, you'll have a simulado every week. Then you'll be fine, as it says there. And then every simulado I will talk to you about. Okay, so I'll explain it and you can ask me questions and disagree with me and fight with me about it, because that cognitive discussion, because that's what I like to say, it's cognitive, you're thinking about it, you invested in it, helps in your learning, okay? I'll be looking at that cognitive ways of improving your vocabulary and teaching you how to learn vocabulary in that 2nd class. So it says there, lots of vocabulary, the last one, lots of vocabulary exercises and how to study language more autonomously. The classes will be, Thomas, between 60 and 90 minutes, okay? I'm trying to get you to 90 minutes, but they'll also be recorded too, okay? So, and I'll keep you animado all the way through. We'll start off with quizzes sometimes, okay? Online, doing vocabulary, you've got to guess those words straight away as if it was the exam. Lots of pressure, lots of Hunger Games, okay? There, Paula, all right? So we're getting to that level, get that way motivated, ready for the test, okay? So the length of the class, Thomas, will be more or less
the same length as this class. Okay, fine. Good. So next class, that's what we're going on. So you're going to get ready with the pre-reading texts that I've already sent them to or clipping when you've enrolled and when they open it all and get started. Then there are these two texts for you to do. Okay, one's quite a one I enjoy very, very much. Okay, another one is I use on my course about terrorism as well. So I don't really want to say much about them because I need you to read them first, because then I'm going to just go through these texts in detail. Everything is going to be in detail. So you'll have lots of questions. You'll be learning a lot about how to construct these exams, okay, as well as how to pass them, all right? You'll be able to make your own by the end of this, but that will make it a lot more easier for you. Well, you don't have to make them, of course, but it will show you've got a great understanding that when you face the test, you know exactly, you remember my little voice and all of the GCAs, all of the tips that you're going to get, all right, throughout this class, okay? Seems like it's only 12%. Yeah, it's not a lot. 12%, every point counts. You've got to do well in every section. And of course, you've got expert teachers over the next 8 weeks to make sure that you score high in the TPS. What I want is all of my students here in TPS to be classified, okay? I won't be able to count you, but do I have students who pass this concourse? Of course I have. Each year, they've had people have studied, I'd say about 20% of the last 3-4 years of the candidates who've passed have studied with me. Okay, at some time, they maybe studied the year of the test, but they may have studied before. English is something you need to study, you know, not just 6 months before. It takes time. So if you're starting, you need a whole year before to do that. Okay, so I think, Carolina, when they open it all, I think they will wait for everyone to enroll. So then everything's organized properly and they do it properly. Of course, it will be a lot of work for everybody, but it hopefully flexible enough. I would like you every Thursday because that's the time when I can see there's a gap in your study. You've got João on Saturday. Tungai, I think he's on Friday. So Thursday is your time where you can study English again with me with these exercises I'm going to give you, okay? And we'll organize with that study with you as well, okay? Of course, if you need flexibility, that's okay, because you're going to see me every Monday, okay? And I'll give you exercises every Monday. Similar others from the third week, second week, third week, because I don't know, I've got to remember how many weeks with this is 0. You'll have those texts to do, okay? So we'll go over them and we'll discuss them, okay? So you'll need to do that as next week, read those texts, okay? On the 15th, we'll have it. So that's it for me today. I hope you found this beneficial, okay? This sort of introduction. You'll see where I'm going with the text. Hopefully you think that I must know what I'm talking about. Oh, I realize that picture's got my old glasses on, okay? So that's me in my office. Welcome to my office. I didn't say that at the start, okay? And remember, if you're Botafogo or Liverpool supporters, you'll always pass perfectly, okay? Because you've already got good taste, okay? So I'd like to finish with a little bit of football. I'm sorry if you don't like football, but it's the only thing I'll mention. Thank goodness it's coming back, okay? Yeah. What else? So yeah, glad you joined me in my office. Join me next Monday here in the same place, the same time. I'm glad the technology is working very well.
Thank you, Orlando, me too, okay. Thank you for all of your lovely comments, okay. Join me next week. You're going to learn a lot about English as well as pass the exam, all right. My students, of course, when they pass the exam, I'm lucky enough, probably the only teacher on this course that when you pass the exam, I was there waiting for you at Rio Branco. I used to welcome you there and then say, well, did you learn something on my courses? And then, of course, they were able to say how they were, because then they were using English to a high level at Rio Branco, writing, of course, to a high level, and speaking. In the Rio Branco, we would improve your speaking, of course, because usually students come in with a very high level of writing, because to face this test, you need to write very well. Anyway, I think, Gustavo, I think it's going to be 2, I don't know if it's going to be 2 or 2:30. Ask clipping, I'll be ready for you to start 2 o'clock or 2:30 next week. All right, I hope you'll be ready too. Anything else? No, I think that's it. Again, thank you very much. Great to see so many of you online. Look forward to getting you through this exam. This is the first time I think that anyone has done an exam of the English section like this. So please know you're in good hands, someone who really knows what they're doing. I've taught this for a long time. First time like this, okay? And sorry if I've said something wrong. And yeah, that's it for now. All of the best. Keep studying. Fingers crossed when the Edutail comes out, there won't be any change. If there's any change, of course, we'll make the adaptations necessary, as it, because it's not really going to be a lot of difference than what's happened last year. Okay. All the best. Stay safe. Stay home. If you're going out to protest for some reason, wear a mask at least. You're younger than me, probably many of you, so you might feel you want to do that. As there are protests everywhere, there were some outside my door, out my window today here in Brasilia. Again, all the best. See you all next week. Bye-bye.